Are live. We'll give it a couple minutes, give people a chance to get in. What'd you end up ordering? Anything good?
Yeah, Applebee's for Priscilla, man. Just uh salmon or salmon and
I was gonna say there ain't no L in that word. I
I
mean, there's
know,
an L
right?
in the word, but
Salmon and some broccoli and vegetables and
and stuff.
stuff.
And stuff. You guys, thanks for coming in and joining us. We're gonna take just a couple minutes to give people an opportunity to hop in. Had somebody yesterday kind of clown on us a little bit for being a couple minutes late, talking about that's what the Army does is they late, but Marines are on time. I said, yeah, Marines on time for messing up, but Army boys got to come in and make things happen.
Yikes!
I got some stories about Iraq, but we'll leave y'all Marines alone. We'll let y'all have your crayons tonight.
Oh man, not the crayons, yo.
Yeah, my favorite. I like purple and green. Those are my two favorite flavors. You know, us soldiers we like to chew on our crayons. That we do.
Man,
And for those of you that are just coming in and don't know anything about myself personally, I definitely clown on the other branches in the military, but I love them just like I do my siblings. But don't let a civilian talk about them. I light you up.
yes
But
indeed.
everybody, we got the Corps and the Zoomies. For those of you that don't know the Zoomies, that's the Chair Force, the Air Force. And then everybody calls the Coast Guard puddle pirates. I don't know, they just little coasties. Have you ever seen I think, oh man, I don't know if they still do it. I think it was Ranger Up. They used to do like a little cartoon, and they would have a character for every, like each branch was represented by a character, and the way that they did the personalities behind them was fantastic. But again, you guys, thanks for joining us. Do us a favor if you can, like it, share it, invite somebody in, participate with us tonight as much as you can. We are going to give it just a minute here. Steve won't be joining us tonight, unfortunately. Just keep the fam in prayer, and Danny is going to be late tonight, I guess, from what I understand. I guess he's got to take care of the $25 hangar rental. The airport nobody uses. Um, but so again, you guys do us a favor, come on in, like, share, invite somebody in. Appreciate it. Hey, what's up, Battle? Got Rosales there on coming in, chiming in on the post. He and I went to basic together in Fort Knox. So I've been knowing that brother for a little bit, couple days. All right. We're gonna go ahead and jump in and
Only
get
Kevin.
started here.
All right, all right, all right, all right.
And say, all right, all right, all right.
Yeah.
So we like to clown and have fun, man. With that being said, you guys, a couple minutes, couple things. One, if you haven't already liked and followed the Facebook page and invite people in to do so, definitely want to encourage you to do that as well. We did just launch a YouTube page, so these videos will be uploaded to YouTube as well. The link is on our Facebook page. I'll probably throw the link in the comment section a little later here. But trying to get that updated. We got some exciting things going on, working on building a media hub, full-fledged platform with various shows, programs, various content from other creators as well, not just from us. So really excited about that. Again, want to shout out, if you guys have been following for any length of time, Queen BZ Cosmetics. It's a Black-owned cosmetics company. They just dropped another line of lipstick, and so I want to encourage you to check them out and give them a holler. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram as well. Show them some love. And then Valentine's Day is coming up, and I'd be amiss if I didn't shout out Miss Chanel Lee down in Jacksonville, Florida, and Living Beauty Florals. I've been knowing her since my son was born. So we're knocking on 17, 18 years now that I've known her, and so the work she does is phenomenal. If you go to the page and just check out some of the pictures, it's like I said last night, I saw something that she did. I almost ordered myself some flowers. And ladies, with Valentine's Day coming up, I'm just gonna throw this out, gentlemen. I don't know how y'all feel about this, but I know sometimes, like, my one, not that I have one right now. Well, I have one right now. Let me stop lying. But my woman likes to be treated like a queen. You know what I mean? Like, likes to be treated like a queen, likes to be taken care of. But, us men, we like to be treated like kings too. We like to be treated like kings. We like to, be taken care of. And it's not about submitting or this. Sometimes we like to get the phone call talking about, baby, be ready at 7 o'clock because we going somewhere, and we like to be taken care of. We like to come home after a long day at work to a gift, so. And I don't know about the rest of y'all, man, but I've gotten flowers before. It was weird the first time it happened, but honestly, the thought is great. It's nice. So check her out, hit her up, kind of thing. V-Day's coming up. So y'all, and ladies, your body's worth more than a box of chocolates from CVS and a $20 plate at Applebee's. So I'm just throwing that out there. Know your worth. Hey, listen, sometimes you gotta talk about it. You gotta let them
For
know.
real, yo.
These young women out here, it's like, listen, I know you might get 1,000 likes on your little cute picture that you're looking over your shoulder with your backside hanging out, but at the end of the day, if you still accepting a $5 box of chocolates from CVS and a $20 plate from and not even your own plate, it's a 25 for two.
My God.
And you clearly don't know your worth. So
My goodness.
Know your worth. That's all I'm gonna say about that right now. But we are gonna get into tonight's topic on House Call. You guys, thanks for joining us. We definitely appreciate it. All you kings and queens out there, appreciate your feedback and your support. But we're gonna have some hard conversations. We ended last week. We tried to make last week light. We did. We tried to just kind of clown, talk about football, talk about a few other things, highlighting Black History Month. And again, I wanna take time to do that, right? Like the beginning of the month, saw all kinds of posts on social media, all kinds of people talking about Black history. And then all of a sudden it kind of fizzled out. Listen, Black history is, it's highlighted in February, but it's 24/7, 365. And we need to really give the respect that it's due, and really give the respect to people that have helped our country get where it is. We highlight other things during March. There's a lot of highlight to, Irish Americans and their heritage and what they did. And then later in the year, Hispanic Heritage Month and what they've done. And, we have a huge, the Puerto Rican Day Parade in New York, those types of things. We highlight all the contributions of various backgrounds and ethnicities here in the country. We most definitely need to highlight the contributions of Black America and, Black culture and Black history here in the country. So don't get tired just because it's the middle of the month. All right. If you started hot with it, keep going hot with it. Put your hand to the plow and keep going. So want to throw that out there as well. Gentlemen, how we doing?
All is well.
Doing well, bro. Go ahead.
All is well. I can't complain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look like you already done with me. Like I'm over it. I'm done.
No, I was just acknowledging that we're about to have this conversation, and the people that need to hear it most are gone.
Man.
Forward to it.
Well, I know Steve was really looking forward to it. He
Steve
was extremely apologetic for not being able to be on. But at the end of the day, family comes first. And I would expect it on any level, whether it's this, whether it's a 9 to 5. Family's got to come first. And if you ain't taking care of home, then the rest of it ain't gonna fall in place. And so hard conversations. So you guys remember, well, Dax, you weren't here last week. So we like I said, we tried to keep it light. We tried to just kind of talk about sports because the Super Bowl was coming up. And I do want to throw out that y'all looked at me crazy when I called Bucks by 14. But it looks like my spread should have been a little larger. But I definitely called that one. And how about Brady with that toss, that trophy toss? We're like,
Across on the
during the
across
boat parade.
yeah.
Yeah, gets to Florida and loses his mind. But yeah, so we ended up slipping into a conversation kind of centered around, and Danny had brought it up, and I was trying to wait until he joined us to hop specifically into that question. But he made a statement to the effect of, in reference to minority groups, that hey, sometimes we got to do better. To that effect, like that you have to take some responsibility for our actions and things that are happening. And I don't want to speak for him, but I know that all of us were definitely not on the same page. In reference to the comment, in reference to the approach. So, Ezra, if you can kind of recap some thoughts on that, kind of fill Dax in. I know Dax, watched the show, but you weren't here when we actually had the conversation. So
I do want to come on here and like formally kind of, I guess, repent for something. I mean, I did say that I had no role models growing up, and that wasn't true. I do have influences and role models that definitely helped me in decisions that I made, and most of the things that took place in my life were direct reflections on me, and I have no one to blame but myself. But I also I want to just recognize, like, I did that just because I didn't want like everybody to take what someone else said and take it as truth. And so I apologize for that, for doing it the way I said it. And I don't want those people that I offended, those role models in my life that I did have, to be offended. So I do want to apologize to them. But as far as the statement of what Danny was trying to say, I didn't agree with it, because it's not always that simple for somebody. It's not always that easy to just be like, well, put your cowboy boots on and move forward with it. There's a lot more obstacles in people's way than just to say like, hey, this is how you do it, and you're going to do it that way, and do it yourself. So that's basically my takeaway from last week was I shouldn't have did it the way I said it, and I apologize. And I still don't agree with it, even though I used myself to protect a race of people, and that's what I got. I mean,
well, I mean,
you remember what it was?
in Danny's defense,
Uh-huh.
and he's not here.
Right.
And I don't, well, he's joining now. Well, I don't want to, necessarily speak for him. But I think there is, myself personally, in everything that we do, regardless of race, regardless of your economic situation, there's a level of personal accountability in everything that we do.
Absolutely.
And without accepting that personal accountability, number one, we do ourselves an injustice. That's a big thing. What's up, Danny? Nice
What's
to
up, Doc?
decide to grace us with your
Hey,
presence.
He's on the run.
But there is that necessity for personal accountability, especially like you and I being involved in ministry within the Christian church and the Christian faith. You really can't progress in your faith without a level of personal accountability. And I think that's true as we go through our personal lives, whether it be our economic struggles, the struggles that apply based on unfair situations and disadvantages that we have. With Mr. Malone last night, and I said, you know what, yeah, we might be running the same race, and we might face a lot of the same obstacles. Like our path in its basic sense is identical, but based on the race and based on the white privilege that I experience. And for those of you that don't understand white privilege, we can have a full conversation about that, but it's not just economic standing. Okay, that's what a lot of people don't understand, because I wasn't, I've experienced white privilege, but it wasn't because I was born with money or come from a family of money. When I reference white privilege, it's not talking about the dollars that are in my pocket or my bank account. Excuse me. But it is a situation where, he's got ankle weights on and I don't, based on some of those circumstances. We both have to take accountability that we have to face the struggles that are in front of us. And he has to accept the fact that he's got ankle weights on, but those ankle weights aren't there because of something he did. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we try to blame the ankle weights on the individual. Why can't you get it? Why can't you keep going? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? And it's like, well, listen, well, why can't you get a solid education? Well, because you redlined my neighborhood. I'm going to a school that's not funded properly, and the classrooms are overcrowded. The teachers aren't getting paid enough to really care, and they're trying to care as much as they can, but they're burnt out because of the amount of students that are there, and they can't fund the facility properly, so it becomes unsafe. So now I can't learn. My family situation at home is not, like, a lot of people think that the education process is just the school. It's not. It's the home life. If I come home and daddy's getting drunk, beating on mama every night, that's going to affect how I sleep, how I study, how I retain information, and how I progress in school the next day. And a lot of people don't realize that. And those types of situations aren't because, hey, you need to get up and make it happen. Take accountability for yourself. Well, I can only take accountability for myself. I can't take accountability for those other things. Right. Dex, you wanted to say something before I hopped in here. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't. No, go ahead, bro.
That's all right. I thought you were gonna. But yeah, so again, those of you that are just joining us, we appreciate you coming in. Like, share, try to engage with us in the comments. We'll get to you as much as we possibly can. Bridget, nice to have you join us. And Dax, you got Dre. Says Dax, my boy. So
and Dr. Harry, I feel like I'm the one who brought this to the table.
You did. Right? We already blamed it on you. You did.
So and I know I'm a little late, but I was listening to everything you're saying, and I can't agree with you more, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a certain accountability that everybody has to take for themselves, but at the same time, not everybody's running that same race. And it's kind of like a fork, right? Everybody gets to the handle, but not everybody runs up the same ladder to get there, right? Mm-hmm. In my whole point in bringing this up last week was that yes, there is challenges in front of everybody, and everybody faces different challenges, right? Some people's challenges are a little bit harder than mine, are a little bit harder than somebody else's, and I fought that good race. I ran that good race and had to jump over a bunch of obstacles. And my whole point was, at some point, right, we got to start taking care of each other as a people, and we got to start doing better as a people, right? Like it's one thing to have ankle weights on you, but it's another thing to say at the end of the day, what's everybody doing about it, right? And how long are we going to talk about these ankle weights? And how long are we going to let these ankle weights weigh us down before somebody takes action? And these can no longer become excuses, right? Or weights, or however people want to phrase it, right?
And see, that's a little different approach than what you took last week.
Right. Well,
how you presented it last week
was, no, I'm getting there.
Was hey, it's on you. You got to do better as a person, not let's take care of each other as a people.
Right. But hold on, I'm getting there.
Okay.
But until you get there to where the people are ready to take care of the people, right? Then you have to be able to overcome them obstacles but on your own, right? You have to be mentally, physically strong enough to overcome them obstacles, given the things that are put in front of you. Yes, we can talk about underfunded schools, and that's a problem. That's a societal problem, right? But at the end of the day, there's a lot of successful people that come out of them underfunded schools. We can talk about how white privilege gets some people to college, right? Like Steve said last week. But what I also said to Steve is he graduated with $100,000 in debt. I have the same amount of education he does, and I only have $20,000 in debt because I was poor, right? So he's sitting on 100,000. I'm sitting on 20,000. And the reason that I'm sitting on 20,000 is because I was poor.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this in reference to that, because there are some things that to examine in that regard. Did you go to college right out of high school?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't finish right out of high school.
Okay.
But I went to college out of high school.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
And you know, anybody who knows me knows I'm an administrator at company. I've always been an administrator at a company. Well, nobody handed me that job.
Right.
I had to start at the bottom and work my way up.
Right.
I wasn't handed that job. And believe you me, there was 25 hurdles I had to jump over that Gary Harvey wouldn't have had to jump over. But I jumped over.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, my father is an alcoholic. Let's put it out there.
Okay.
My dad is an alcoholic. My mother raised me, right? And my mother worked the night shift, had 3 kids. My mother never came to one of my football games, basketball games, or baseball games, right? And I lived in a 2-bedroom house with 5 or 6 people in it, right? And my mentors growing up were the boys on the block. One of the people who taught me the most about life is Ezra's father, who's no longer here.
Okay.
So listen, it happens, but where do we go from there, right?
Okay.
So, and that was my point last week, was how many times, okay, so I could have bailed it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
My life tells me I should have bailed it in. I should, my single mom, 3 kids, 5, 6 people living in the house. Dad's an alcoholic, never see him. He always says he's coming to get me, never shows up. You know, had my first kid when I was 15, second kid when I was 16. Everything about that says I should have gave up. So when do we make that shift?
Okay. All right. Ezra, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot right there, but and appreciate your honesty on that whole subject. It's just like, I don't want to do this and give my dad a discredit or anything. Like, I'm just gonna say it. So like, my dad, when my dad never was, I didn't have that relationship with my dad that Danny did. And my father, even though like he was a great man, he would look out for me when he could. My dad definitely lived a different life. He didn't raise me. My mom and him were never together. I had a stepfather that really like was there for me. My dad, although like he had his struggles, he did have some bit of wisdom with him. So I could appreciate Danny saying that about him. But like, I also have those daddy issues of like, when I was graduating high school, I went to tell my dad to come to my graduation, and my man he didn't show up, didn't come. Like, one of those things that were there, like being there for me. Like, he wasn't that person. He wasn't that dude for me. Mm-hmm. That's why I did, like everybody else, a discredit. Like, I did have role models growing up. Danny was a major part of me growing up. My Uncle Ty, my Uncle Bob. I have a godfather named Michael Burrows. I grew up with male figures. So like, I have zero excuse for that. But as far as the college situation, is that right out of Archbishop Walsh, I had a chance to go to Bonaventure, I applied at Bonaventure and I applied at JCC, and I was really going to make this decision to go to Bonaventure. And how much is it to go to school at Bonaventure?
About 40,000 a semester.
My uncle told me, like, hey, listen, you better just like go to JCC because you don't know what you're going to get into. You don't want to spend all that money being in debt. And what ended up happening, like, I hit a patch. I got to college. I was like, just, it overwhelmed me, and I ended up not finishing. So like, if I would have went to Bona's, making those you have options. Like, you don't have to go to a 4-year school and spend all that money. You can go to a SUNY school like that, where you're not spending that big money or go to school in state instead of going out of state where you're going to pay more of the tuition. I believe what Danny is saying is that, because the whole argument, Steve did mention that when he went to school that he was poor also. I think it's okay to identify that, okay, those are struggles that we have. If you want to go to those schools, that's fine, but understand that you're going to have this much debt going forward.
Right.
We need to have role models in place to be like, hey, listen, these are your options. When you're going to have the same degree, but when you graduate from this school, you're going to have this much debt. When you graduate from this school, you're going to have this much debt with a bunch of interest, and you'll be paying it until you're God knows when.
Right.
I'm going to say one more thing, one other thing. So just recently, I took this class, a Dave Ramsey class. You guys know who Dave Ramsey is? It's a financial peace university, getting your finances right. And Dave Ramsey has like options on how for parents to do that, like parents that work at normal jobs that can afford to send their kids to college because they're prepared for the moment. It's all about being prepared and planning it out and budgeting your money and putting your money into places where you could build on wealth. So when your kid does get to that age where he wants to go to college, you can be like, here's this much money towards your tuition, and hopefully it's paid by then. But setting your kids up for success, not just
well, and not, just to hit that specifically, not every parent has that mindset. Not every parent is financially in a position to do that. Like a lot of parents want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about, the minimum wage aspect, right? Like, oh, well, let's not raise the minimum wage because cost of living is going to go up, and these fast food workers, they don't need to make more than what they're making right now, and et cetera, et cetera. Well, let's talk about that. The federal minimum wage hasn't changed in how long?
Oh man, since what was it, 1990 something? 1990.
Been some years, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the amount that I pay for a Big Mac meal at McDonald's has definitely increased over that time, and those fast food workers are still making pretty much the same. I mean, they're making a few dollars more than what they made back in the 90s, but it's roughly the same. Cost of living is going to go up regardless of whether or not we increase the minimum wage or not. And another argument that gets made a lot of times is like, oh, if you increase and give these fast food workers $15 an hour, then, they're making almost as much as teachers. Well, wait a minute. Why is the argument against giving someone a livable wage and not giving our teachers more money? Like, that's where the argument should be. Like, honestly. But that's another show. We'll talk about that on another show.
Yeah.
But in reference to like obstacles and role models that we have, and each one of us have got issues and struggles that we come from our backgrounds and our homes and all these types of things. Like Justin says, first he says underfunded schools is one thing, parents who don't have technical skills or desire to have them. And I think that's the big thing right there, desire to have them. Because I know I can't speak for Olean. My child isn't going to school here, but in Florida, if the parents are having issues, at least at my son's school, if they were having issues and the students having issues with this virtual learning and learning from home, they can get help from the school to help them explain, set up, and work through the process to make sure the child is getting what they need to get. I don't know if that happens here or not, but again, he says, parents who don't have technical skills or desire to have them to teach and help their kids in this virtual landscape while having daily access to a phone, tablet, and computer, some things shouldn't be. And then he goes on to say, as far as men as role role models for young men. Let's be real. In a lot of cases, if you're not playing a sport with no father at home, no man is going to take any interest you as a boy or young man. That I 110% disagree with. I 110% disagree with that, based on my personal experiences, based on people that I have encountered. That may be Justin's experience, in reference to that, but I know myself personally. It hasn't been the case. There are men out there that want to help young men learn to be young men, regardless of if they can throw a baseball or catch a football, or move around on some hockey skates or run track, or whatever the case may be. They want to invest in these young men just because they want to make a difference. And then Michelle says, I also have a lot of student loan debt and definitely not rich, have my bachelor's and my master's degree. And that's kind of what I mean. There's a lot of people, and specifically, like, we're talking Black History Month, right? Like, Michelle shared a post, and I'm gonna throw you out there, Michelle. I apologize if I shouldn't, but she put a post up on Facebook. It was yesterday or today. I apologize, but talking about an opportunity to speak to a classroom about her experiences in reference to Black History Month. And a student asked her more of a detailed question in reference to her thoughts in reference to slavery and some other aspects of Black history. And, it spawned a further conversation. She's going to sit down one-on-one with that student and have that conversation. That's amazing that those conversations are happening. Right. That's amazing that there, and that's where role models, people become role models without realizing they're role models. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that we have to acknowledge. Like Danny's talking about, he came to a fork in the road. He could either go left or go right. And the people that he had in his life had invested and planted enough of the seed that when it came time for him to make the decision, each one of us have to make a decision what direction we're going to go in. And, so he makes that decision. We have to be mindful of our approaches. Jax, come on, join this conversation, man.
All right. As far as that goes, as far as like the minimum wage thing, I'm gonna tell you like this. A lot of people are going to sit there and talk about it because of the fact that everyone is struggling right now. But then you have those ones that are making less than minimum wage, or basically co-signing with those that they agree with, knowing they're struggling too, and they will not budge and push for the people, meaning themselves. And it will not. I mean, it's an ongoing battle. It's been like this since 1776.
Well, I think that, like to Danny's point, when he was talking about, hey, we got to take care of each other, it does start with taking care of yourself. Like you have to know how to take care of yourself.
Well, I want to clear something up. I have 2 degrees, and they all came from a SUNY school, right? So let's not get it twisted. I didn't go to Bonners. I didn't go to a private school. I wasn't privileged. You know what I mean? Both of mine came from a straight up SUNY school. My son, on the other hand, and I never really like to put financial business out there, but I'll tell you, he probably has more in student debt than some people make, than some married couples make in a year. And so, why is that, right? Well, it's because dad and mom did their thing, right? So, my daughter is attending a community college, right? So it's not like these high-priced universities, and the universities my son did attend were all SUNY universities. They were all state universities. We're not talking about Bonaventure's, Harvard, Yale's, anywhere like that. So, so I agree. College education right now for a young child whose family is middle class could be out of reach for them financially, right? And this is where you get into that argument back and forth about middle wage up or middle wage down, right? And like you said, that's a conversation for another day, because I have I'm not trying to blow your feet up, but I have a view on that a lot of people might not agree with. I'll give you an example. You're right, Burger King. You go to Burger King, what's it cost you for a value meal right now? $10?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah. The last time they raised minimum wage, your value meal went up $3, right? So, well, who are they raising the minimum wage for? The people that make minimum wage, right? They're not going to turn around and give the teachers more money. They're not going to turn around and give the people that are the working middle class more money to offset the minimum wage increase, right? So my value meal just went up $10 now, but I ain't making no more money, right?
But if
Because
you
we
look,
don't get
if you look at price
these
increases
adjustments.
though, if you look at price increases though, those happen without the raising of the federal minimum wage.
But every time they raise the minimum wage,
Federal minimum wage hasn't been raised in how many years, Danny?
it has in New York State though.
The state minimum wage, but federal
Yeah.
minimum wage has not been
So,
raised.
but every time they've raised the state minimum wage, you think the stores are taking that hit?
No.
You think Burger King's taking that hit?
But see,
You think
that
McDonald's-
is one of the
They ain't taking-
problems. That's
they
one
ain't
of the
taking
issues
that
with
hit.
capitalism. It is. And like I said, that's a conversation that we can definitely have, you know, for another day. And I want to say this in reference to the schools, right? So my son's about to graduate high school, right? About to graduate. And he and I are talking, Dad, what do I do? You know, do I go to a community college? Do I go to a trade school? Do I join the military? You know, I enlist in the military. Do I go to this college? And so the conversation that I have with my son, I don't know what, you know, Danny, you had with your kids, and Dex, what you'll have with yours, or Ezra, yours. Mine initially starts with, what do you want to do? Like, let's start there, because I don't want to push you in a direction that works for me, because you're not me. You know what I mean? And I think I think that we kind of set kids up to think that they've got to go to this private university. They got to go to one of these SEC schools or Big Ten schools, or, you know, one of these Ivy League colleges in order to be successful. Listen, historically Black university alumni have just changed the game in the last 3 months. The last 90 days have just changed the game. And for years, people said, if you go to a historically Black college or university, you're not going to go anywhere. It's not going to do anything, et cetera, et cetera. Listen, regardless of where you go, at the end of the day, when you step in front of whoever you're presenting yourself in front of for a job, whether it's a $40,000 piece of paper or a $60,000 piece of paper, at the end of the day, it is you, your experience, your ability to articulate those experiences that make the difference. So I'm going to say this. I don't care where you go. If you can do the job, make it happen. You know,
and I can tell you that from a corporate world, and somebody lawyer, sometimes I don't look at where your degree is. Your degree just gets you the interview. Mm-hmm. That's all it does. So that $40,000 piece of paper you have, the only thing that did for you was got you an interview. Mm-hmm. Now you got to show me what you got in the interview, because I got 20 other people behind you got the same degree.
Right.
And I don't care if you graduated from Harvard and you can't do the job, and I'm taking, and somebody from Empire State represents themselves better, I'm taking a person from Empire State.
Exactly.
That is what it is. What I wanted to say about the community taking care of the community is I want to make a couple comparisons, right? Because the only way you can put things into perspective is when you can compare them to other things, right? Right now, what's going on in the city of Buffalo, which is only right down the street from us, right? You have a bunch of Arabs that are buying up the city, and they're buying up the blocks, and they're bringing people over, and they're taking care of them. They're putting them in houses, and then they're opening businesses, and then they turn that one house into 2 houses, into 3 houses, into 4 stores, into 5 stores, and they're buying up the 7-Elevens, and they're buying up the Dunkin' Donuts, but they're taking care of each other at the same time. They're not saying you come over here and sleep on the street and then good luck to you. They're saying, no, come on, I got a bedroom for you. Let me help you level up, right? Mm-hmm. And then that way you and your family can be successful, right? You look at the Asian market does the same thing. They'll live 7, 8, 9 to a house until they level up. What I'm saying is, at what point and it's going to strike some people the wrong way because it's probably not going to come out the right way, but it's going to come out how it's going to come out. At what point do we as minorities say, let's level up? Let's do what we got to do to level up.
I think that's what we're doing right now, though. Honestly,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I-
I apologize. Let me interject real quick as we finish. But I do want to address that when we're talking about individuals or different ethnic groups, to make sure that we're referencing them appropriately and not in reference to, some type of what's commonly concerned as, considered as slang. Especially with us, a lot of us trying to make
I was trying to figure out the right way to say that.
Individuals of Arab descent, something to that effect. But go ahead, Ezra. I'm sorry.
I think that we're in a moment where we're at a moment at a time is that where the cake is being presented, and how many pieces of cake are you asking for? Are you going to ask for one piece of cake? Are you going to ask for a slice of the cake? Or are you going to ask for the whole cake in general? And I believe that's a good idea, is that we all come together as an African-American community and get our ideas together and go from there. That's what needs to happen. But unfortunately, in a city like Olean, I'm only going to talk to Olean right now because we don't have a lot of Black-owned businesses where we can just put the money and generate them through each other like that. I mean, it sounds good, but are we set?
There are communities, some down south, some in the Midwest, where different developers or investors have come together. And, there's one woman that owns, I forget how many houses, but it's essentially an entire neighborhood, one Black woman in the Midwest. And, forgive me, I don't recall her name or exactly where it's at, but, her goal is to, help put Black families into those homes. There was another group of Black investors in, I believe it was Georgia, that purchased X amount of acres of land for development, essentially to help establish a Black community. And it's not saying, hey, we only want Black people here, forget you white people. Like it's not saying that. But when you have so many struggles, it's a lot easier to come together with people that are like mindset and to be able to look out for each other and help each other. And, a lot of people do, even myself, like on my Instagram page, especially, I push a lot of Black owned businesses and a lot of small business owners and a lot of, individual up and coming, like people that are trying to, artists and photographers and musicians and, whatever, because I believe in helping people achieve their goals and achieve their dreams. And as a group of people or a group of citizens, as Americans, we should want every people group under our flag to be just as prosperous as the next. Right. We shouldn't want just one group to prosper or to only focus on one group or something to that effect. Go ahead, Ezra. I'm sorry.
I was remembering about in 1921 Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was Black Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And what happened was they were trying to do the idea like what you were talking there, and then the federal government came in and destroyed it.
Well, they did the same thing in Philly. There was a neighborhood in Philly that the federal government actually bombed.
Yes, sir.
In Philly. And so we have a very dark history as a country that we don't like to acknowledge. Like we like to, from the Christian church perspective, we like to beat our chest and talk about how we're a Christian nation. But we have a very dark and disturbing history. And we have a very dark and recent history, not just years ago. A lot of things that we talk about in reference to social injustices have been within the last 70 years. It's not like it's hundreds of years ago. Within the last 60 to 70 years, we've just started. And no, it's not a fair race. It's when you start with nothing and your opponent starts with, for dollars and cents, you start with nothing. They start with 1,500. They've already got a head start on you.
Yeah.
That's the reality behind it, whether people want to acknowledge it or not.
Got one more thing to point out too. When something like that happens, you got a black-owned business, and we touched on this a little bit last week. And you make a mistake, you're going to be judged different than if you were white and owned just a normal business. People are going to be like, well, over there it took 10 extra minutes to get my food. If it happened like one time, that might not be how it is all the time, but you're going to judge them, and so it's just not. It's not even judged the same. To be able to,
and it's not, unfortunately, and the other thing, in reference to that is, going to your people, your friends, for those of you that aren't familiar with the terminology, go to somebody and that owns a business, and you constantly asking for a hookup and asking for a discount. Like, that's not supporting that business. That's, well, I bought from their shop. You bought at cost. You didn't help them make any money. You took money out of their pocket.
They're asking for stuff for free.
Exactly. Like, always trying to get the hookup. Like, we can't go to these black-owned businesses or businesses that are owned by people that we know, constantly asking for a handout, constantly asking for, oh, come on, man. Like, we go way back. I need you. Like, it's funny to me. Like, I have a lot of friends that work in the airline industry, a lot of friends that are pilots and flight attendants. And it's hysterical because as soon as somebody finds, oh, you a flight attendant? Oh, that's cool. How long you? Oh, what airline? Oh, can I get a buddy pass? Like, bro, you ain't talked to me in 6 months. Like, seriously? That type of approach. And I mean, I've asked for buddy passes, but there are also people that I constantly am engaged with, and I don't ask for it unless I needed it.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't just because I didn't want to pay. Go ahead, Dad. Come on. We got to get you engaged, man.
You're right, man. Like I see that a lot here in El Paso. But the thing is, like, when it comes to us black people, we have a hard time trying to save our money because we always, well, I'll put it like this. We as a people, as Americans, we have a problem with wants over needs. And the thing is that the moment that we have our friends about to open up a business or something, we can't help them out because we saw something that we really didn't need, didn't really, you know what I'm saying, wasn't really looking forward to getting anyway, but we get it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, you don't have anything to support your homies. Next thing you know, I asked for a hookup just so you could say, oh, I got it from here, such and such, whatever. No shout out on Facebook, no social media, nothing. I see it constantly, time and time again, man. And it's one thing that we got to do is we got to put our finances in perspective as a people, because it's especially nowadays, it's very paramount because of the fact that we don't know what's going to happen in the next couple years, the next 6 months, nothing. Nobody's saying anything. It's just, we just going along with the rat race. So it's pertinent that we actually support our people consciously and actually, give them what they're due.
Yeah, like Ezra and Danny both said, and they said the same thing at different points and in different ways. Ezra was talking about the Ramsey class and, how you essentially have to be prepared for that future and be prepared to help your kids or, yourself, etc., to be able to progress. Specifically, we were talking about college. And, Danny said that, his kids had more options because him and their mom had prepared themselves and were doing what they needed to do. Now, regardless if you take this step, that step, do this, do that, whatever the case may be, you're right. We spend money on things that we don't need. And honestly, when it comes down to it, supporting your people's business, your friends' business, people that supporting them does not necessarily cost you anything. It really doesn't. Share the business, talk about the business, review the business, invite people. They have social media, invite people to follow their social media pages, like those types of things. It doesn't cost a dime to do that. Like all the shout outs that we do on this show and on the podcast and on the Facebook page, etc., all these different businesses and entrepreneurs that we shout out, we do this because, and it's done for free. I don't, it's like a lot of shows are like, oh no, you need to monetize. Like I get criticized all the time. you need to monetize, you need to start. No, because it's a platform that I can use to help these people, especially these Black-owned businesses that are starting to get up off the ground. They got a new product, a new book, new music. You know,
Yeah.
I want to be able to do that, because if I can help remove obstacles that I had to face or that I still have to face, if I can remove them for somebody else, then I've done something to help my fellow man. You
Absolutely.
know, you don't have to go through, like, we hear it all the time from the older I say the older generation. I'm sure I've done it on occasion, but you know, or the classic, I had to walk uphill 5 miles in 6 feet of snow, barefoot both ways, you know, that type of thing, right? Like, oh, you
Yeah.
didn't have it as hard as me. Well, you shouldn't want me to have it as hard as you. And
It should be getting better.
exactly. And
Level
you
up.
know, exactly. We
Level
shouldn't
up.
we shouldn't be fighting the same social injustices that Dr. King was marching for.
Bruh.
You know, we shouldn't. You know, the charges getting this. It's tiring. It is tiring. You
It
know,
really is.
it's you know, and I can only imagine for other people. You know,
Listen,
I mean,
I don't know how many lives we do, how many live shows we do, and we always seem to, you like you said, fight the same battle. We're all fighting the same battle in different ways, and it does. It gets tiring. Actually, I just told Ezra, I said I'm on a Facebook break because it's tiring. And it's depressing, right? But I want to touch on something that you said a little bit earlier, Dr. Harvey, because something that's I've been thinking about over this whole impeachment trial, right? Because I try to catch a little bit here and there. I can't sit down and watch the whole thing because life's just too busy. But I try to catch a little bit here and there. And words matter, right? Words matter. Words mean something. And what's been striking me for the last couple of days, that's kind of been hitting me a little bit hard, was I keep hearing that the election was stolen, right? And then when they keep saying who stole the election, they point to Philly. They point to Wayne County out in Michigan. They point to every neighborhood that they wanted a recount in was of a minority-based region, right? So I had to start asking myself the question, so who are they saying stole the election? Right? And what do you mean America will never be the same again? Who's changing it? Right? So I think them are the questions right there, because that's been hitting me a little bit. And I see you take your hat off, rub your head, Dr. Harvey, because I'm going to give it to you, because it's being said time and time again, but nobody breaks it down to who you're talking about.
Oh, they saying black folks stole it.
Yeah.
They saying black folks stole it. Let me help you out. Let me make it plain. Let me say it again for the people in the back. Let me say it again for the people in the back. They saying black folks stole it.
So when you say
they're right about one thing. They are right about one thing. I don't believe the country will ever be the same.
So when they say
when you can take a state and you can take that state that has bled red for years, and you can say,
I have to do a shout out. So my man Bo Walker's on this live right now, and he's someone that helped turn Georgia blue, kinda. He's 50-50. We'll give him that.
Okay.
So shout out.
But see, but that's what I mean. Like I honestly, like, we can pretty it up, we can dance around. Now I will say this. You know, both sides of this aisle, Republican and Democrat, they pander to who they think they need to pander to when it's time to pander to them. You know, at the end of the day, the people got to make a difference.
But when you look at the people who stormed that Capitol and what they were saying, America's never going to be the same again. They stole the election from who's they? And you're right. What do you mean it's never going to be? It's never going to be America again. Let's put and one thing that bothers me, you hear all these senators up there talking. They all running their mouth. They're all setting the case, right? But nobody's addressing the elephant in the room. Who? And what do you mean? So as you're storming the Capitol, this is what you're storming over. So when you say that there's underlying things that we've been dealing with for a long time, and they go back 70 years, I'm telling you, no, they go back 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
When you're storming the Capitol saying they stole the election and America will never be great again, and the only you want recounts are in the minority community, and the only thing that changed in your government is more minority senators, who you talking about? Why you storming the Capitol? Because that's who you're talking about. Let me hear what you guys say about that.
You're right about that, because it's kind of like, how can I put it? They kind of like contradicted themselves when they even pulled off this whole riot, just because of the fact that they looked clearly into what Trump was saying, but they didn't look clearly to what the other people were saying. And that's where the problem is. Mm-hmm. They don't understand the role of the president of the United States, especially back then, but now it's just like everything is quiet. Why?
Well,
why now everything is quiet? Because 5 of the organizers of the riot got arrested.
Well, not just that, but the entire group was disillusioned, because it was, Trump's going to have our back, and here you are sitting in lockup still. But here's my thing. Here's my thing with it, right? So you made a statement. You said people don't understand the office of the presidency, and they don't. The fact that people thought that the vice president can come in and nullify the validation of the counting of the electoral college votes. And the only reason they believed the vice president had the power to do so was because Trump said that he had it. And then when Pence doesn't do what he can't do,
hang the man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or even, when Fox News recanted a lot of stuff that they had been saying. And Fox News actually aired a piece that essentially disapproved what some of their anchors were saying in reference to election fraud and the vote being stolen. Now all of a sudden, Fox News is they're part of the fake news group. And it all comes down to the reason people believe this is because Trump said this is what it is.
Always fake. But let's get down to business. The reason that them people were there in the first place was that they thought that the minorities of America stole the election from them, and that their country would never be the same again. And the only thing that changed in their country was minority. And nobody has stood on that Senate floor and said, this is what we're talking about.
And you know what? None of them will. I don't believe any of them will.
The president of the United States was going to allow the vice president of the United States to get hung in the Senate to prove a point, because them people was going hanging if they found him. In the videos that I saw, and like I said, I didn't watch it all them senators were put in danger and almost hurt. I seen Mitt Romney do a sprint. I ain't never seen that man move so fast in my life, and neither have I seen Chuck Schumer. I didn't know Chuck Schumer can move, but that cat was out. But listen, why were they going to do it? Because they thought the minorities stole the vote and the minorities were taking it over. That's why them people were there.
One thing that stuck out to me when I was watching it today, they pointed out the fact that some of the that got charged, like you were talking about, Dax, their defense was the president told them to do it. That's what their defense is. So if they're gonna use that as a defense,
So here's my thing. Like I said, I think you and I were talking about it, Ezra, where from a legal standpoint, to be able to play with it, right? The man didn't come out and say storm the Capitol. He didn't come out and say break in, destroy stuff, try to kidnap people. Like, he didn't specifically use that verbiage. Okay. And that's the argument that a lot of people are using, that he didn't specifically use that verbiage. So he didn't incite. Well, when you tell a group of people, hey, we're going to march down to the Capitol and we're going to help those Republicans, he specifically says the weak ones, because the strong ones, the ones that agree with what I say, which are really the weak-minded ones, they can't think for themselves, don't need help, but we're going to go give the weak ones the strength and the courage they need, and we're going to fight, and we're going to take back this election. Like, you can't tell me that didn't incite the crowd. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, well, it was premeditated. People brought stuff. Exactly. Because the whole thing was, now, were there people that were sincerely there just to be at the rally, just to protest peacefully? I believe that. I do believe that. I know people that were there personally. I think it's naive to believe that every individual that was in DC in support of Trump that day was intending to storm the Capitol. Like, to me, that's naive and foolish.
Right. I mean, I agree with you, but this is when it comes down to guilty by association.
Understood. No, I understand. And that's what I'm saying. I believe that there's people that showed up.
Like, if we were all four in Central Park and I shoot somebody, you all are going to jail.
But what were you
protesting? Oh, no, I'm not.
You all are going to jail.
Like, what were you protesting? What were you there protesting?
Well, no, I get that. Like, no, I get that. And what I'm saying is, like, I don't believe that everyone was there had the intention to storm the Capitol. Do I believe that people went there without intention and joined in because they thought they could get away with the mob violence? 110%. We see it all the time. The Black Lives Matter protest, here in Olean, the first one that happened when
Yo, I seen you on that video too.
I was one of the ones that broke up the one fight.
Yes, I saw you.
I was one of the ones that broke up the one fight. Because, here you have a situation that sparks between two people, and now, 15 people want to come in and throw a punch because, that's the thing to do. We see it all the time. Happens in the clubs, happens on the subway, happens, wherever, especially with young people. It does. I mean, for whatever reason, that's what being hard is throwing a punch and running away. I don't understand that. Like, this whole
that only happened in Ward 4.
Man, this whole social media era has got kids thinking they can't get smacked in the mouth. Man, these hands is rated E for everyone. I'll step on your neck. I don't care.
But let's talk about that argument for a minute, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm sitting next to somebody and I say, yo, why don't you go ahead and put that guy to bed, right? Everybody knows what that means, right?
Night.
Everybody knows what that means, right?
Exactly.
So now all of a sudden, I ain't because I didn't say
exactly.
Go put 2 in.
But see, that's the legal.
I didn't tell you to do that.
Exactly. That's the legal. That's part of the issue with our legal system is we play semantics and we try to dissect everything. At the end of the day, I believe 110% for months he's been inciting this. There's not a hesitation in that statement at all.
How many weeks in a row?
He started when he got elected.
Yeah.
How many weeks in a row did he say is when the Electoral College comes to count their votes, that's when you're going to find out I'm still the president of the United States. Mm-hmm. Stop the count. The electoral, Pence is going to do what he needs to do. Pence going to do what we need him to do. Pence going to do what we need him to do, right? That's all you kept hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Well, I feel like this impeachment was constitutionally right. I do feel like the impeachment would hold more weight if they didn't try and do it already.
Right. No. I agree, and
they weren't.
It's a frustrating process. And what's even more frustrating is how many people blindly accept what's said. And I mean that from both sides of the spectrum. You can't just believe what's thrown out there, especially in a situation like this. You got to do some research. You got to pay attention. Pull on some.
Well, that's the purpose of propaganda.
Exactly. And pushing propaganda is something this country is we excel at.
We love it.
We do. We excel at it. We were
part of this in Star Magazine.
Yeah, man, we were part of it in Iraq. You know, Dax and I were.
Bro.
You know, when we
Yes.
were sitting outside of, we took the airport, right? The 27 Infantry, we took the airport. We took Baghdad International Airport, and we're sitting there. And that next morning, the Iraqi information minister comes out talking about all the Americans have been destroyed and killed, and we'll take you guys on a tour of the airport. Telling the reporters this, right? That he was going to bring them to the airport to prove it.
My
And
God.
you know, so we all sitting there like, okay, cool, we just gonna meet you there. So we were on the opposite side of the propaganda. However, we helped push some of it ourselves. And you know, well, what do I mean? Well, I had to make it seem like everything was like, oh, it was great. Like these Iraqis loved us. Now, I'll say this, and Dax's opinion might be different than mine. But after what I saw and experienced out there, I would readily go back again. Like that, I would start to finish. I would. That's me and my personal experience. However, what I will say is the way that we did things, we did a disservice to the Iraqi country and the Iraqi people.
Absolutely.
We left vacuums of power, we left vacuums of security, but we told the rest of the world everything was great and they loved us,
Yep.
and that wasn't the reality. But it was propaganda that benefited us as a country, and we do it to our own people. Republicans do it, Democrats do it, Trump does it. You know, I mean, we do it to our own people. And so because of that, we have to be responsible enough to do the research. And the same thing is true with, you know, just because somebody tells you you're on an equal playing field with them does not mean that you are. You
It
know,
really.
if you're my opponent, I'm taking every advantage I can. I'm sorry. It is what it is. You know, I'm not trying to lose if you're my opponent. That's just the reality.
I don't understand. I don't understand losing. I'm from maybe the minority now. I don't understand losing. I never understood losing as being okay, and I never understood how anybody can say, "Oh, get him next time, champ." No, how about I should have got him this time?
Yeah, you shouldn't have run outside of bounds 5 yards and ran back in to score your
Right.
winning touchdown.
Like so, I don't know. Like, and maybe that's just built for some people and not. But like I don't understand the meaning of losing. I don't. That word isn't even in the dictionary to me.
Yo, Bo Walker says, why isn't he criminally charged? Impeachment is just a dog and pony show. I think there's some truth to that. I definitely think that the impeachment is, there's a level of dog and pony show to it, unfortunately. I believe that it is being used as a political agenda to strengthen bases. And also there's been talk, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but there's been talk by a group of Republicans starting a third party that is essentially like anti-Trump. They're trying to completely separate themselves from any type of tie to Trump. Still have the same basic values that general, you know, from a general standpoint, Republicans would have, but completely severing ties with Trump because a lot of the Republican Party is still behind him.
I just don't think that would work either, though. That's not the answer.
You know what? I don't think it's the answer, but I think it's a start.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think that at this point right now, we have two wings on the same bird.
There it is.
We have two wings on the same bird, honestly.
Yes, sir.
And you know, it's fortunate. We need a real solid third party. You know, but the way our politics is set up in this country, our politics is actually set up to prevent additional parties. Like if you really look at how it's set up to prevent additional parties. Because again, it's
to prevent the truth.
What's that?
It's to prevent the truth.
There you go.
It's the further agenda. That's what it comes down to. Gentlemen, we've been going just over an hour. We are going to wrap it up. I will say this, you know, and I shared it with Dax and Ezra before we went live. But you know what? I didn't record this tonight. I can't put it up on Facebook. Oh, I'm slipping. Or on YouTube. I'm slipping. Sorry.
You could have done them both at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, I'm slipping. I missed that one. I'm so used to only doing Facebook Live. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I'll have it fixed next week. I promise. But
do you know how to do them both at the same time?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't say. I'm so used to only doing Facebook that I only did Facebook. But in the next few weeks, those of you that caught the podcast episode last week, Well, the replay will still be on Facebook. You can still pull it up on Facebook. The video will be there. I just won't have it on YouTube,
Is there
unfortunately.
a way to copy it from Facebook and put it on YouTube?
There might be. I'm old and senile, so I don't know if some buck out there knows. Have them shoot me a message and let me know, because I don't know. But Miss Tamika Wilkerson, that was on last week on the podcast, her and I have been talking. She's going to be a periodic guest on House Call. So in a few weeks, she's going to join us for some a few topics as well. And you guys that are out there listening, if there's something you want us to discuss on the panel, shoot us a message. Let us know. We're definitely open to the feedback, because we want you guys to be engaged with us as well. We don't always want to be the ones dictating the conversation. We definitely don't all agree, probably won't necessarily agree with you, but that's what makes the conversation good. I mean, you heard tonight, we weren't all on the same page tonight, but they're conversations that need to have. They are those difficult conversations sometimes, but until you have them, you can't learn, you can't grow, you can't have another perspective. So again, at House Call, we like to make every conversation count. So thank you all, gentlemen. Appreciate your time tonight. We are going to wrap up. Just final words, Danny.
Just appreciate the conversation. I know we always don't agree on everything, but that's what makes it interesting. Like you said, like, I just appreciate the conversation. And what I said tonight might not have come out right about the different ethnicities. And for anybody I offended, I'm sorry. That's not exactly what I meant, but that's my bad, and I take full responsibility for that. But I do appreciate all the conversation.
Respect and appreciate that. Thank you. Go ahead, Dex.
Hey man, just it was a great conversation tonight. I'm appreciative I was able to make it tonight. I have very little to say, but next time I will. Just be good to your neighbors, man. Take care of each other. You know what I'm saying? Wear a mask when you go out in public. That's it. That'll be easy.
All right, Ezra.
I just want to thank everyone who took the time and listened to it. It was a good conversation. We usually have a good dialogue between all of us. We'll miss Steve. Keep Steve in prayer, and lift him and his family up. And absolutely, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, again, you guys, thank you very much. For engaging, tuning in, sharing. Definitely appreciate it. I apologize if I can't get this on YouTube, but you will be able to pull it up on Facebook and catch the video. But I'll try to get it up on the YouTube channel as well. If you haven't already, like and follow the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and invite your friends and family to do the same. We want to encourage them to engage with us as well. So again, if you guys have any ideas, topic suggestions, go ahead and message us, send them to us. We'd love to hear from you. Definitely want to keep engaging. Thank y'all for the love and support, and we'll catch you next time on House Call.